The last couple of videos that I posted talked about how much is enough to retire and the factors which are likely to lead to the success or otherwise of your plans. But I always get comments about using numbers that are too big and for some seemingly unrealistic. So today I want to reinforce this message and I'm going to back it up with numbers, hopefully. You can retire on less than you think. Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name is Pete Matthew and I'm a chartered financial planner based here in the UK. And this video is brought to you by Meaningful Academy. More on that towards the end of the video. Because your situation is unique, how much is enough to retire is going to be unique to you. The thing that makes it unique is your lifestyle, your spending and your situation. Financial planning success isn't about investing genius or complex tax strategies. It's about managing spending relative to your income and your capital. If your income is $25,000 a year after tax and your expenditure is $30,000, well, you're going to need to find that $5,000 difference from somewhere. And if you're approaching retirement, chances are you've got pension funds, bank savings and ISAs from which you can draw. The question then is, how long will that money last? And will it last longer than you do? I mean, we really don't want to run out of money while we're still alive. At my financial planning practice, Jackson's Wealth in Penzance, we use a piece of software called Timeline. And this app uses detailed historical data for asset class returns and for inflation. And also, it has Office of National Statistics data on longevity. So essentially it asks, had you retired at any point since 1915 with the same money you have now, invested as it is now, would you have outlived your money or would your money have run out before you died? Now at work, I tend to use 90% certainty as a benchmark for the output being acceptable, but it might be that you would prefer 100% certainty. But let's consider our case study. First, I'm going to assume that we're talking about a couple, but I will do the same numbers for a single person shortly, so stay tuned. I'm assuming both have the full state pension, but that's it when it comes to income. So there's no rental properties, no DB pension schemes, no side hustles, nothing. Two maximum state pensions is about $23,000 of income right now, and that would be tax-free if there were no other incomes. I'm going to assume that the money they have is split between pensions and ISAs in about a 2/3, 1/3 split, that it is invested in 80% global equities and 20% global bonds, and with fees of 1% a year payable. I'm also assuming that the couple retire early, at age 60, and that means they're going to need to dip into their capital heavily for a few years before their state pensions kick in. Finally, I'm going to assume that we carry on spending until, according to the ONS, there's only a 10% chance of one of the couple being alive, and that's about age 99, believe it or not. So I'm starting with what might seem like a big number, £750,000 invested. I know I said I wouldn't use big numbers, but bear with me. So if you need to spend $50,000 a year, adjusted by inflation, and $23,000 of that is covered by the state pension, well, you need to draw down $27,000 a year. But for the first few years, of course, you're going to be drawing the full $50,000 from your pots. Based on our assumptions, the plan would have failed 27% of the time, historically. It would have run out of money. To get that failure rate down to 10%, or to put it the other way around, to get to a 90% likelihood of not running out, you could spend £44,850 each year. So, are you with me at this point? 750 grand invested, retiring at 60, with two state pensions kicking in at age 67, you could have spent 44,850 quid each year, rising by inflation, and have 90% certainty that you'll be okay based on history. So here are the 90% certainty spending figures for various different amounts invested. Maybe those figures are higher or lower than you might expect. The biggest issue here, I think, is the fact that we're assuming 7 years of all the couple's spending needs being taken from capital, because our couple are retiring at 60 with no income until their state pensions kick in 7 years later. So I call this early retirement period the danger zone for this reason. You can do a lot of damage to a portfolio by drawing off it heavily early on. So what might the figures look like if they don't retire early, but instead retire at state pension age? By the way, before I answer that, if this is useful so far, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It really helps, so thank you. Okay, our couple are 67 now. They are retiring now at state pension age. Here are the amounts that they could spend based on different capital levels. Remember, the first $23,000 of their spending is covered by the state pension. Now, obviously, if you retire later, you have longer to build up more in your pots. Plus, you'll be drawing down less from year one because of the state pension in this example. So if we take the example of having £200,000 in pensions and ISAs, a couple retiring at 60 could spend $22,500 a year, every year, rising by inflation, and with 90% certainty they wouldn't run out. But a couple retiring 7 years later at state pension age could spend $31,100 a year with the same level of certainty, just over $9,000 a year more. But that makes sense, right? Retire later, spend more when you get there. Now, if there's only one of you, the figures will be different. There's only one state pension for a start, so only $11,500 of your spending needs will be covered by guaranteed income. And there's only one personal allowance for income tax, so more of the money you need will be taxable. That's an issue when you draw off pensions especially. So here are the spending figures for the different capital values in this scenario. So if you want to retire at age 60 and spend £3,000 a month forever, and you're single, you're going to need £750,000 on hand to do that. If you've only got £200,000, well, you're only going to be able to spend $1,350 a month with 90% certainty that you won't run out. And finally, here are the spending figures for a single person retiring at state pension age with different amounts of money put away. Again, I wonder what you think of these figures. Are they higher or lower than you thought? And finally, I'm going to put all the figures full screen for a few seconds so that you can pause the video and see everything together and see how the variables and the different scenarios pan out. Remember, these are spending amounts that were historically sustainable 90% of the time over the past 110 years of data and include either one or two state pensions depending on the scenario. Right, let's talk about the problems with these numbers. When we project into the future to see if our money will run out, we know for a fact that our projection is going to be wrong. The future is, of course, unknowable. There are just too many variables. Most of the factors involved are things we can't control. Markets, inflation, asset class returns, political and geopolitical events, environmental factors, all of these will impact any plan, and there's not a damn thing we can do to affect the outcome. Then there are the things that make your situation unique. Your age, the difference between your age and your partner's, the split between pensions and other accounts, and the split between you and your partner, the investment mix, the fees you're paying for those investments, any other incomes, likely inheritances, the value of your property. And this is why I have a job, right? I build plans and test scenarios that are unique to each client. And then I recommend ways that the client can improve their chances of retiring as they would like to. And then there are a few things that we can control. Our spending, our chosen asset allocation, our investment behavior, like not selling out when markets go down, paying attention to tax and costs. If we do our bit with the things that we can control, at least we're not introducing more randomness into the plan. Now, the title of this video is that you can retire on less than you think, and I think that's true, because if you build your own plan, rather than just looking at numbers and examples like we've done today, you will likely find that your capital required figures are not so big as some of those that I've used here. And certainly that's what I tend to find when dealing with clients every day. They can retire earlier than they think, they can spend more than they think, or maybe they don't need as much capital as they think. They're usually pleasantly surprised at their own figures. So you can either get in touch with us here at Jackson's to help you with your own financial planning. I'll put a link in the description. Or you can work out your own plan with me guiding you along as you do so at Meaningful Academy. In the two paid courses, that's Build Wealth and Retirement Planning, you get a year's free access to the planning software that I use every day with clients, plus a video library of lessons on how to use it. There's a community of great people in a similar situation, all willing to help each other out by answering questions, and there's a monthly live Q&A call with me. So check out MeaningfulAcademy.com, and if you decide that the course is for you, use the coupon code YouTube for a discount. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Hopefully, I'll see you soon inside Meaningful Academy. So, what have we learned? Well, the numbers will either have been a pleasant surprise or they'll have freaked you out, maybe somewhere in between. But if amassing like £300,000 seems like a stretch to you, know that I had a guy in my office this week, age 47, with no pension, bemoaning the fact that he'd left it too late. But if he starts at just £300 a month, that's affordable to him, And if he increases that payment by 10% each year, he will have well over $300,000 by the time he hits state pension age. And I think you'll be amazed at what you can build simply by being intentional. We can't complain that the numbers are too big if we're not sitting down and working out what we can save and invest for the future. None of this stuff happens by accident. We have to decide we're going to do it. So in the next few videos, I'm going to deep dive into the main accounts that we're going to use to build the kind of wealth that we're talking about. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, if you haven't watched the last video about the key factors that impact your financial success, check that out over here. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.